Hi, my name is Dave Klein, and I'm here to present the third presentation on my channel. And this one is for a global training team org structure and job responsibilities. And this is just something that I've done with teams that I've started from scratch. So the presentation is keyed towards those organizations that are starting a training team or maybe have a local training team that they're making global. And this technical training team is made for customer facing. So this is involving people from around the globe that touch those customers, and we'll go from there. So the first thing we want to talk about is the actual structure and how that affects people. And if we look at the structure, we have on the top what I call the Global Training Council. And in the Global Training Council, this is where you'll have representation from people from all walks of life and different job responsibilities, but you need representation from your regions that your current organization is serving today. So, whatever company you belong to, whatever regions in the world that they have marked as regional territories, you'll need representation and sponsorship from those organizations, and they should have something to do with sales and marketing in that region, somebody that knows the customers. So it could be a field support organization and people who really care about the training, the customer facing training that you'll be delivering for those people. So it's very important to understand who you're going to be asking to be on that council, ensure they understand the amount of time that's going to take, and we'll talk about that in this presentation, and what you're looking for them to do. But they need to be kind of customer-facing job roles in the regions that you support, so you can give them the information on what training materials that you're developing, and also looking for feedback on the training materials that are currently out there, and even getting customer input on what's needed. You'll have your global training lead, and that could be a global director or global senior manager or manager that's responsible for the training function, and they'll be part of that council. And then that global training lead is going to be the leader, the overall leader for your leadership teams, so any other managers that are managing teams in the global training team. For instance, you may have an instructional design team or a team responsible for developing the training materials. And sometimes that's nothing more than project managers that actually manage external consultants that are developing the training for you, or you have on staff your own instructional designers. Then you have training delivery, and that training delivery could be two ways, or it could be both ways. That could be training delivery via learning management system, or that could be a training delivery team of instructors who deliver the information globally. And then lastly, you probably need somebody on your team, if you're working within a global environment, doing translation. So that could be a person that actually manages the team of project managers that do translations, or you could have a combined team of learning management system representations as well as handling the translations of your training material in the regions that are needed. These would be your reps from EMEA, from North America, from Latin America and the Caribbean, and also from Asia. And you would directly be working with those reps, and those reps will be also part of that global training council. But they're the ones you're going to be working with to develop that training material to meet the needs of their region. And we'll get into that in a little bit. So, next slide we're going to talk about is that leadership team. So, if you're the global training manager or that global training manager responsibility, again, that could be a director role, senior manager role, or a manager role, depending on the company and environment you find yourselves in. You're going to have the responsibility to, take care of the team. So, you'll have that strategic planning, developing your yearly scorecard. You may even have that, managing a 3 to 5 year plan. You manage the initiatives. So, what's important and setting those priorities for your team. And then that knowledge transfer roadmap and management. You'll drive process improvement. You'll be responsible for the budgets and then also the forecast of budgets, how you're spending that money. You'll have staffing decision responsibility. You'll have salary planning, performance management, customer care, cross-functional team representatives. So if your team is working with a global team, let's say marketing and sales, then who's representing your team with those teams? And then manage consultants and vendors. The membership of that team is going to be that director manager of the global training team and then the leadership team members, if you have any. And then there are people that will be responsible for making those decisions. And the thing we are going to talk about is that leader of the instructional design teams. This should be a person who has a background in instructional design, developing training material, and that should include technical training for customer facing students. That would be product training, basically on the product that your company develops. And that should be that person that has that responsibility. They have experience there. They've dealt with that before. Doesn't mean that person has to be a member of your current team or a person in the company, but somebody who has that responsibility or had responsibility in the past of customer facing training material. They're responsible for resource management. So they're the ones that are going to recruit and hire their team members. They're going to mentor and develop their team members. They're going to provide that performance leadership for all their employees, and then identify and resolve any performance issues. They'll also have that overall project management of all the courseware being created. If you're like most companies, you're not going to have just one product coming out the door every quarter or every 6 months or so. You're going to have multiple products that are coming out the door. So you're going to need to have people managing the development of that training material for those multiple projects going on. And that's usually the person leading this instructional design team. They're also project managing all those projects for the company. Initiative leadership. So, what initiatives is this team going to take on for the year besides developing that product training? In most companies, people have initiatives that they need to support throughout the year besides that product development. So, this person would be the leader in that area for your team. And they're also a member of the leadership team. The next person on that leadership team is going to be your leader of the global LMS administration. So, in most cases, you're going to have a global learning management system. I would say in today's environment, the great majority of your courses are going to be online delivery self-paced training. So, you're going to have learning management system administration requirements. And that's going to be on a global basis. In most cases, you're going to need someone in each region so they can manage the persons that are taking the training in that time zone. If you can't manage, in a lot of cases, you won't get the budget for it, you're going to need some representation around the globe to manage those different time zones so you can be manage them as they need to be managed. When you run a learning management system, you're going to have user accounts, and in those user accounts, you're going to have the password and username of that person. And guess what? Just like in all the other databases around the globe, people forget that password, and they're going to want that password reset for them almost immediately. So they want some administrator to work with to get it redone. So you're going to have that representation around the globe. This person here will have ultimate responsibility for that LMS administration. They have that resource management requirement, just as the leader of the instructional designers did. They'll have that project management requirement. So if you're doing any improvements of how to load courses or how to do testing on the LMS or anything that needs to be happening on the LMS for improvements or changes in the software from the vendor that you're getting the LMS from, you need to have somebody with that responsibility. So that would be the leader here. Next one's going to be that translation project management. Now, what I have found is in all organizations that I've been part of, we have the need to translate our course material from region to region. Now, one of the most difficult things is getting your regions to agree on what training material they need for their customers. And one reason for that Global Training Council is to kind of get those requests and those needs as priorities up front before you start developing the training, and then delivering that training material in language for that particular region. So that's the need of a translation project manager. And their accountabilities are drive and manage all translation project planning activities, working with the global marketing team to assign staff to the project from each team as needed. So if you're working with a global team, that could be a service team, a marketing team. It just happens to be that the examples I have and from my experience, I work closely with the global marketing team because their translations are just as much as needed as our translations. So this project manager will manage the execution of all translation projects through direct interaction with all project resources. So they're going to be ones managing to get those files in for the translations and also get the files back to the people that need that translated files for their organizations. They're going to be the single point of contact for all translation project activity. What I have found in my jobs that we usually use what they call a translation management system. It's a system to put all your translation projects into. And then when you're working with translation entities, either you have people that are doing the translation for you external to your company, or you're actually using machine translations, which is becoming more popular today with the onset of ChatGPT and others, where the machine translations are becoming quite good. So you're managing those machine translations with your translation management system or TMS. And then you want to make sure that all your deliverables are there, right? So you're going to be making sure those project files get back to the appropriate people in time to meet that product release. In today's fast environment, when customers receive a product, they're expecting the training material to be there when the product's released. A lot of companies do pre-sales today, so they're selling a new product before it's even released. So a lot of customers are looking for that training on that product right at release of the product. So when they get it in their hands, they have that training material. So it's very important that we plan ahead and make sure that your translation projects meet that deadline. On the first slide that we talked about, we had the Global Training Council guiding principle. We had the Global Training Council. So here's a slide talking about the Global Training Council guiding principles. And I think if you follow these are very good guiding principles for any global training team that you put together. First thing is you want to make sure that you conduct regular meetings. I recommend you do bi-monthly or monthly. We were doing meetings every other week, so that's every 2 weeks. And then we moved it to monthly after the team got going and things were pretty smooth as far as following process, reaching out to the appropriate people to get your training materials approved. So we went from a bi-monthly to a monthly once the organization matured. You want to maintain a set of meeting minutes. So it's important because this global training council is going to help you make decisions. So if you're trying to prioritize a set of work product, which one is more important to you when you don't have enough resources to develop that training material, they can help you set those priorities. It's important to have those meeting minutes to refer to if somebody from on high, other management, asks why you worked on this project and you didn't work on that project. Identify and manage resolution of content design creation issues having a cross-regional impact. So this is varied. This could be where people are reaching out to you, asking you for other courseware that's not part of a product release cycle. So this could be if you're trying to create some sort of certification program to ensure that people that are selling your product or people that are repairing your product, and this could be customer based, they need to go through certain training packages to get a certification to either sell or service your product, and that would be something out of the ordinary. We also use its counsel to identify and implement areas of content design creation improvement. We used ADDIE, but we also were part of improving that, making it faster. And that was a recommendation from this training council. And then identify and implement content design development tool and template improvements. So we would go to them and we were looking at improving the products or the tools we used to create training material. And that's very important. What tools are you going to use to create your training material? Video editors, online course developer, or development tools, so on. And you would need this in my examples. We needed this to go to management to get dollars for those new tools. We always tried to resolve the issues within the regularly scheduled meetings of our training council. When it wasn't practical, then we would look for people on the council to be assigned to these work groups within the council to work out those details and bring some recommendations back to the entire council. And this we used in many different areas, especially around those certification programs or where we're looking for course improvement. How will we do that? Or cycle improvement, making it faster to create the content, or reduce the time for people, your subject matter experts, to review the material since they were busy too. So all of that was done outside with these different work groups, recommendations brought back to the training council, and decisions were made. The large size of global teams, this last bullet, may create a constraint on the ability to gain consensus in a timely manner. It'll be important for members to bring issues with well thought out recommendations or plans for action. That was a practice that we really included. So if you came to the council with an idea for a certification program or new courseware that was different, we asked you for your ideas how that could be implemented. And the other thing that we decided is that if there was a region that needed something or they thought it needed a specific course or not, that would not be a council's scope. They would not have to approve that. However, we did review different region requests to see if anybody else within the globe or another region would like to have that training material. If so, then the council would make the decision. If it was just one region, then it was just the global training team working with that one region to scope the project to see if they had time to do that project and work with that one region to get it done. The council was not involved. And then the council membership, we really didn't put a fixed date or end date for any membership. People would ask if they could join the council. People would ask if they could be excused from their time on the council because of work-related issues. So it was no set time, but we did move people around. People did drop off the council. New people came on the council. And part of this, if you look at that first diagram again, we had these vertical market leads or these vertical leads. The reason we called them vertical market leads because they were in a particular global market area. And they're one of the ones that helped us identify what was the training needs in that particular region. The vertical market lead is to identify and develop, implement the strategies, educational programs, and training necessary to achieve the goals and objectives of the vertical market they represent. They will identify what product launches and marketing campaigns that need global training team commitment for design and development. They will share their needs on a monthly basis at the vertical lead meeting. Well, we really didn't have a vertical lead meeting. We tried it, but we just brought that to the council meeting instead. We did leave this bullet alone, but that's where they brought their input. Key responsibilities include needs analysis, administration planning, and execution of training, strategy, programs and strategies, personal review, being creative within your vertical. This means reviewing DDDs. That's detailed design documents. You'll find we'll talk about those in a different video. And providing feedback was most of the responsibilities to the team. We covered this in our first video, the learning value chain. It's the ADDIE model. This is what we used. We did training, and this is the model that we went over with the Global Training Council, so they understood the process. It was very easy to tell them, and we use this as a reference, as something that we left in a shared folder so people could go back and understand why it might take so long to get training material developed, what we went through. A lot of people at the companies that I created teams in, they felt that, hey, you just developed PowerPoint, so what's taking you so long? Failing to realize that PowerPoint wasn't the only thing we were using. We were creating online training, writing scripts, doing voiceover. So it was very nice to have this slide and share it with people that would have those comments and questions. But something that we refer to many times with different people, but we use this as a reference for anybody joining the training council. We can't forget about the instructional design specialist. The instructional design specialist is responsible for analyzing a project's needs, deciding on an approach, and creating required content. These individuals were involved in a project from its inception, performing all the required audience and product analysis, capturing this in a design specification, what we call the DDD, which is a detailed design document, and then also produce the training materials that meets the objectives of the project. The instructional designer specialist was the main point of contact within the organization for all goals and objectives for a project. One of the areas that we should discuss before we leave this presentation is the time involved for those council members that you're going to ask to join the council. So the council would take about 2 hours a month. You would have an hour meeting, bi-weekly meeting to start off with. And then some of those council members, depending if they're regional representatives or not, would also have review responsibilities of reviewing content material that the instructional design team is putting together. And that could take up to an hour per review. The 2 reviews that we're going to discuss in our next video, what we call our 6-step process, would be reviewing the detailed design document for accuracy and making sure they agree with the blueprint, which is that detailed design, and then reviewing the course material as it becomes available. And depending upon the length of the course, you may be setting up a couple of those reviews so they can digest it in smaller chunks. And usually a review is 30 to 60 minutes in length. So some of those regional reps are going to have some review that requires them to take an hour or 2 per month to review course material. So your council members could be required 2 to 4 hours a month dedicated to the council. And so if you're speaking to them, you have to make sure you talk about that required time. I would also recommend that you record all the meetings, so those people who they all have other jobs. If they can't make the meeting because they're visiting a customer or other responsibilities, they can definitely watch the video of the meeting and get with you for any additional questions. And that's it. An overview of what a global training team could look like with a training council involvement. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me via my YouTube channel, and please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you for watching.